When I think of horror actors, few come to my mind as prolific as the one and only Vincent Price, with several iconic horror roles throughout the 60s, 70s, and 80s. He also played Egghead in the 1960s Batman show. That isn't a horror role, but I'm sorry, I had to mention that here somewhere. You know who else was big throughout the 60s, 70s, and 80s? Why, of course, the Muppets, so it's no surprise that Vincent Price crossed over with them on several occasions, including the Muppet Show's first ever Halloween episode. Hello everybody, and welcome back to Muppet Deep Dive. I'm your host Ty, and in today's episode of Muptober, we'll be talking about Vincent Price's work with the Muppets. Vincent Price's first role with the Muppets is also his most prominent one. He was the guest star of The Muppet Show Season 1, Episode 19, which was a Halloween special. As such, all segments of the show were given a spooky theme, and even the audience was replaced with a plethora of different Muppet monsters. Vincent Price makes his first appearance in the second segment of the episode, a sketch called House of Horrors, a rare occasion of a one-off Muppet Show sketch having its own individual title. In this sketch, Fozzie and Gonzo, in their wonderful Season 1 prototype designs, have rented a summer cottage from an ad Gonzo found in Vampire Weekly. Vincent Price soon enters, dressed in familiar attire and accompanied by Uncle Deadly, a few episodes before he was formally introduced. Vincent Price and Uncle Deadly need a place to stay for the night and assume that Gonzo and Fozzie work in reception.
I am not alone. I am traveling with my beautiful assistant and a hideously deformed monster.
Oh, hideously deformed is right.
Watch it. I'm the beautiful assistant.
Oh, boy.
Master, I've left Hoto in the coach.
Otto?
Good.
The two need to find a place soon, as when it becomes midnight, Vincent Price turns into a terrible monster.
Every night at the stroke of midnight, the master turns into a screaming, maniacal, demonic, raging, bloodlusting animal.
And then I get me.
And then the sketch ends on what is, in my opinion, one of the strangest punchlines in the entire history of The Muppet Show. Uncle Deadly asks them what night it is. Fozzie and Gonzo tell him that it's New Year's Eve. Uncle Deadly is terrified, because on New Year's Eve, Vincent Price turns into something even worse. On New Year's Eve, he turns into
Jack Parnell.
Jack Parnell was actually the composer of The Muppet Show. It's just kind of a weird joke, and I don't know how many people got it when it came out, and of course the joke is even more obscure now. According to the Muppet Wiki, the punchline was originally that he turns into Guy Lombardo, a composer from Canada who famously made a cover of Auld Lang Syne, the song that's always played on New Year's Eve. But this joke was replaced with the Jack Parnell one out of fear that American audiences wouldn't know who Guy Lombardo is, and the original Guy Lombardo recording is considered lost media. Honestly, I think the Guy Lombardo punchline is a lot funnier, especially when you have the context that he wrote a cover of Auld Lang Syne, but I don't know, this is how it turned out, and I think it's still pretty funny. Vincent Price's acting really carries this joke, even if you don't know who Jack Parnell is, it's still hilarious. But the changing of this line won't be the only strange anomaly in Vincent Price's episode. Price's next appearance in the episode was during the panel discussion segment, one of my favorite Season 1 segments that never really returned after it. In these segments, several Muppets, and typically that week's guest star, would sit down and try to have a civilized conversation about a specific topic, which would go about as well as you would think. In real life, Vincent Price was not only an actor, but also a gourmet chef, so that's what his panel discussion is about. Kermit is hosting, and Vincent Price has brought two of his own guests to discuss the wonders of gourmet food.
I have asked two of my culinary friends to join us tonight. On your immediate right is Pierre Lacousse, one of the world's great chefs.
A pleasure.
And next to him is Gorgon Heap, one of the world's great eaters.
As the sketch goes on, Gorgon Heap keeps eating things closer and closer to Pierre until the inevitable happens. He digests Pierre Lacousse. Kermit, of course, becomes his next target, and Kermit desperately asks Vincent to help him, but Price has some other plans.
Can you stop him, please? Froggy, you have to admit you do look tasty.
But don't worry, Kermit would get his revenge in the next sketch, the Celebrity Talk Spot. This is another segment that was really prominent in Season 1 that I always really enjoyed, where Kermit would just sit down with that week's guest star and try to have a conversation with them until things got pretty hectic. It sounds pretty similar to the panel discussion now that I've mentioned both of them, so it's no wonder the panel discussion didn't continue, and the talk spot did for a little while longer. Anyway, Kermit asks Vincent Price how he gets his fangs whenever he plays vampires. Vincent simply smiles, revealing 2 fangs that have suddenly grown out of his mouth. Kermit is in awe and asks him how he does it.
That is perhaps the epitome of the actor's craft. You see, it takes tremendous concentration, years of physical and emotional training, and enormous mental exertion. Do you understand?
Oh, sure.
Oh, well, some people learn faster than others.
A now fanged Kermit then promptly bites Vincent in the neck. Vincent Price then appears in yet another sketch that didn't last past Season 1, the Blackout sketch. These were very quick sketches which took their name from old vaudeville acts that would end with the lights shutting off and the curtain closing. They would just be very brief gags with a guest star and a Muppet. In Vincent's, he's looking for Hilda, who was the Muppet seamstress, who also didn't last past Season 1. Wow, okay. He needs help carrying his clothes, so he asks Sweetums if he could lend him a hand, and Sweetums, let's just say, pulls a Luke Skywalker. I know this is kind of silly to say, but out of this entire Halloween special, the thing that I found the weirdest and most disturbing upon rewatch for this video was this segment of Sweetums pulling his own hand off. Sweetums is such a prominent character in the Muppets these days. He became so prominent over the years, so to see him just casually pull his hand off like he's any other background character they would do this to was just kind of strange. You know, I wonder if Sweetums in canon can still do this. Anyway, Vincent then appears for the closing number. Yes, that's right, Vincent Price is in a total of 5 different segments of this episode. That is a lot, especially by later Muppet Show standards. And another classic case of the Muppets taking a sweet song and making it scary and weird, Vincent, Uncle Deadly, and a variety of other monsters sing You've Got a Friend. Remember when I said there was another anomaly regarding this episode? Well, it's the fact that the You've Got a Friend closing number was cut from the Muppet Show Season 1 DVD, with the exception of its German release. While we don't have a full answer behind this, a lot of Muppet Show segments haven't made it to later releases due to music rights, so I'd assume that this is the reason why. But luckily, the You've Got a Friend segment made its way onto the episode's Disney Plus release, something that can't be said about a lot of other Muppet Show segments that had rights issues. Kermit and Vincent come out to say their final goodbyes, and Kermit tells the audience to give him a hand.
Oh, no, Kermit, let me give you one.
And with that, the episode comes to an end. An absolutely iconic piece of the early Muppet Show. A few years after it aired, several segments of the episode were featured in illustrated and written form in the Muppet Show book, complete with an illustrated form of Vincent Price. It should be noted that this book's take on the House of Horrors sketch includes the original Guy Lombardo joke, not the Jack Parnell one. I guess when they wrote the book, they were going off of an older script. In 1994, the tape Monster Laughs with Vincent Price released this episode on home media for the first time, albeit with several segments removed, including the Talking Houses sketch, the I'm Looking Through You song, and the finale You've Got a Friend. Monster Laughs with Vincent Price also featured the Muppet Show's other Halloween special, Season 3, Episode 7, which guest starred Alice Cooper. Because of the release of this, the Vincent Price episode became the first episode of the Muppet Show Season 1 to ever be released on home media. After this episode, Vincent Price appeared with the Muppets in 2 other places. In April of 1979, to help promote the Muppet movie, the Muppets took over The Tonight Show, with Kermit taking the place of Johnny Carson. Vincent Price was one of the guests on this week's episode. During the segment, Miss Piggy breaks in, trying to convince the world that she and Kermit are in a relationship, which Kermit denies, but Vincent instantly agrees with.
Kermit and moi am engaged.
What? Don't let this audience think that we're engaged. No, we're not engaged, folks. We're not engaged.
Wonderful to be in on that news when the
No,
world
thank you. No.
first heard it.
Not you too, Vincent.
Isn't it
No.
wonderful?
It's great to hear it.
Absolutely.
Just great.
No.
Congratulations.
Really, congratulations. May you
That's
have
not
lots
true.
and lots of...
The following month, Vincent Price appeared in another piece of Muppet promotion, The Muppets Go Hollywood, a special release to promote the Muppet movie which featured a ton of celebrity cameos, one of which was from Vincent Price. And while this ends Vincent Price's roles with the Muppet Show gang, it should be noted that he was parodied across the street, on Sesame Street. In the 80s, Vincent Price became the host of a PBS show called Mystery, an anthology horror series. And in 1989, Sesame Street parodied it with Mysterious Theater, which was hosted by a Vincent Price parody called Vincent Twice, who would always say his name twice. Vincent Twice was performed by Martin P. Robinson. And there you have it, everyone, the full history of all of Vincent Price's work with the Muppets. He was one of those guest stars who just worked so well with them. He would always really play into his suave, creepy persona, which would always bounce off of the other characters so well. The way he would take what the Muppets say so seriously was always so funny.
Vincent, how do you dress so natty always?
Well, it's not easy.
Can you give my frog some tips? He has a
But
wonderful body.
he has, it is a beautiful body, but he has such a limited wardrobe, you know? I mean, no, I'm in brown tonight. He's always got to be in green. It's
true.
not easy. It's
Yes.
not easy.
Not easy being green, too.
Very hard.
But with that said, we've come to the end here. So, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye now.